Hello BookTube! How is everyone? I'm Zina and this is Beating Around the Books. And today I kind of want to do I'm not sure, is it a miscellaneous video? I think it's gonna be mainly a recent reads or reading wrap-up, mid-month wrap-up or something like that, mixed in with a few other things, I guess. A video recommendation amongst those. Yeah, so let's just begin. I am not having a very good day at all. It's not been good. There's been a lot of stuff going on that has kind of taken up my brain space. One of which was obviously the horrific violence visited upon Asian Americans only a few days ago. I don't really have anything intelligent to say about it, I guess. But I have watched a video by a fellow booktuber. It's Nicole from Books from Bed. She is also a fellow biracial, like half Asian, half white person, like me. Although obviously she has a different background than me. But I really appreciated her video that she's only just uploaded today. It basically highlights, or sort of, it's a very broad overview of anti-Asian legislation, the history of that and how that has been sort of perpetrating certain stereotypes and discrimination against Asians in America. And I thought it was a really good overview for people if you don't have any sort of basic knowledge of that. I didn't. I had very few. I knew about very few of the things that she actually mentioned. In fairness, I mean, I'm also not from the US, but yeah, so I'm gonna link that video below, not above. And she also made some comments about being, being half, like I am, and how that sometimes complicates the matter, and wondering whether you can actually speak about these sorts of things or not. If I can find it, I will also be linking some. There was one Instagram post about racial stereotypes and how they're being perpetrated in pop culture, and one by a Asian German person who, that was a tweet, so it was a thread on Twitter, which I found quite interesting, and she is coming from a sort of a scientific perspective. But I'm just going to link those because I feel like these people have much more knowledge and have been, I guess, maybe thinking through these things a lot more than I have. I'm just this sort of random Asianish person who's sometimes white passing, but not all the time, not that I get to choose that. And who's also had some run-ins with racism in Germany. So that's why I'm going to try and find that other tweet as well by the Asian German lady, because we have this tendency here to think that is all that stuff, that's a problem elsewhere, not here, because we've obviously solved racism by engaging with the Holocaust, and it's obviously nonsense. So yeah, we like to think we don't have that problem, and we do. We just have stricter gun laws, so that's probably good, but Anyway, I'm sorry, this is very rambly. I'm just very, I don't know. Yeah, okay, that's it about this one. And then what was the other one? Yeah, well, then the other reason why I'm incredibly annoyed is the seeming lack of any sort of strategy in Germany with regards to corona measures and vaccination strategies and so on and so forth. We are, I don't know, fast approaching our whatever third lockdown, third wave and so on, because somehow it seemed very, very prudent to open shops and open schools without any proper strategies in place, when we had already been on the back foot with regards to vaccinations and so on. So I'm not happy about the situation. And I had a moment where I was like, you know, like some angry dude was screaming at my phone almost when I was, you know, checking up on the news about this. Now, this is not to say that I disapprove of lockdown measures. I disapprove of opening up randomly without any sort of basis in scientific fact. And it seems to me that, you know, there's elections this year, so I don't know if that's got anything to do with it, you know, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, so I hope you guys are doing better. I know in the UK and in the US there seems to be a lot more vaccinations going on than here. And, well, I feel like for me it's probably going to be the end of the year or something until I might get a shot. And that's not really my problem, really. It's not, I mean, obviously I want everyone who needs it to get it first. I'm just a bit annoyed about a lot of the goings on with regards to the priority lists that they've made and the inflexibility with which that whole thing has been handled. And, you know, on top of it, just throw in, let's just take a little break in using AstraZeneca, because why not? You know, there's not been any causal link, but let's just do it anyway. Why? Because there's been panic-inducing headlines that we need to react to. Anyway, okay, this has been 7 minutes of, I don't know, rambling, ranting, and so on. Maybe let's go and talk about books. What I've been reading so far. This is hilarious. I have read, or no, I've listened to 6 audiobooks since I last talked about books that I'm reading. I think this is very reflective of having been in hospital where I had you know, fever and headaches and whatever, so I didn't really feel, I didn't really have enough focus to read with my eyeballs for a prolonged amount of time. And so I guess my first one actually that was on my TBR. That was for the Irish Readathon, and that's Michelle Gallen's A Big Girl, Small Town, which was fantastic. The audiobook was narrated by one of, I've forgotten her name, I'm gonna put it in, but it's one of the cast members of Derry Girls, which was fantastic in my book. It really brought those characters to life for me with that Northern Irish accent. I will, however, say, if you're interested in it, maybe check out a sample first, because I have read several people's reviews that said they basically couldn't understand a word. I personally I've got a few friends who are from Northern Ireland, so I feel like I'm a bit more primed to understand it, even though I'm not a native speaker. But if it's completely new to you, and you know, that might be a problem, who knows. But it's a beautiful book in my book. It's in my opinion. So what it is, we follow Magella. She is a, can't remember, 20-something-year-old woman who lives with her mother. Her mother is, well, she's an addict, she's an alcoholic, she's a handful. Her dad has disappeared years ago already, and she lives in a town, I think it's a fictitious town, but I'm not sure. But it is a town that is close to the border with the Republic of Ireland. The setting or the time frame is after the Good Friday Agreement. And there's this very interesting turn of phrase where at some point the narrator says something like, when peace broke out, you know, which already gives you an idea about how, whether or not there were peace negotiations or not, and the Good Friday Agreement and so on, it still didn't really solve a lot of the issues that the people in that town were dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Yeah, Magella lives, so she lives a very repetitive life. She works in a chip shop. And let me tell you, I have not had any fish or meat in quite a long time, and somehow I still really craved fish and chips when I was reading that. Even though, in fairness, it doesn't necessarily sound amazing. It's just whatever. It's just a craving. It's never mentioned, but it seems like she's on the spectrum. She loves making lists. Mainly, those lists consist of things she hates and things she loves. The things she loves, that list is very short. And the things she hates is very long, and it has got lots of subsections. Although she also says right in the beginning, realistically, I could probably shorten this all down to other people. So she's very endearing. Yeah. What else? I can't really speak too well about it, I guess. Yeah, what we also find out right at the beginning, so it's not a spoiler, is that her grandmother has been the victim of a violent attack, and she has died from that attack. So again, as you can see, you know, there's lots of crap going on there. And yeah, it's really, really good. 5 stars. And I think I might want to actually buy a physical copy as well, because I loved it that much. Okay, next I listened to Kimchi Jiyoung, born 1982. It's a book that's been everywhere. I think I don't need to speak too much about it. What does it do? It highlights misogyny specifically in South Korea. It's written in a very sort of detached way, as if it's like a report by someone. And it kind of weaves in statistical data as well, which makes it even more sort of sober, I guess, in its style. But it's very effective. It made me incredibly angry, and I'm presuming that was the goal of the whole exercise. And whilst some of the misogyny that women in South Korea are subjected to seems more exaggerated than what, for example, I feel I've encountered here, there's still a lot of similarities where you just feel like, okay, this is sort of a thing that to an extent happens to women the world over. And then, and the ending just made me want to, if it had been a physical book, I would have thrown it across the room. Not because I'm angry at the book, but it was very effective. So yeah, I can't remember what rating I gave it, either 4 or 5 stars. May have been 4. But I'm not even sure why now. Yeah, this was all a bit of a haze. This was all still in hospital, so sorry. Then next, that was a reread or re-listen. It was The Butchering Art, Joseph Lister's Quest to Transform the Grisly World of Victorian Medicine. I think that's the whole title. Also a bit of a mouthful. I think I listened to that, I don't know, 1.5 years ago or so, really liked it. And this time I decided to listen to it again because I was feeling quite sorry for myself. And I was in a lot of pain. And I thought, you know what's gonna help me? Reading or listening to somebody telling me how absolutely terrible medicine used to be. Because then I'll feel really, really appreciative of modern medicine and the hygiene rules that I implemented in our hospitals and all that. And let me tell you, it worked. It worked perfectly. It may seem like an odd choice. To me, it was the perfect choice. Yeah, it really sort of took me out of myself, you know, gave me a bit of perspective, and I just went, thank fuck for science and, you know, pain relief and all that. Yeah, so I can definitely recommend it if you're interested in, I guess, the history of science, medicine. It's the only little quibble I had, and this is really not really the book's fault in that sense, because it does say it is Joseph Lister's quest, right? So it's clearly following Lister and his life, you know. I don't know, yeah, maybe I should talk about Joseph Lister. So he was a, I guess, you know, a well-known surgeon in the UK. And after him, we have what's it called in English? Listeria, the bacterium. And also Listerine is named after him. Not that it's not his invention, but it is named after him. Somebody was, you know, banking in, you know, under the sort of using that name to market his product. Great. Yeah, and he basically revolutionized the how do you say this, like the hygiene in hospitals, then the how you take care of wounds to foster healing and avoid inflammation and infection and so on and so forth. So he was, you know, a pioneer of sort of you know, using a microscope to look at things that we might not, you know, this was at a time when people didn't even necessarily believe in germ theory yet. So really interesting stuff. And that my little quibble is just that sometimes it was following his life so closely that at some point I kind of got a bit bored, because for me there was almost a bit too much personal detail that I wasn't too interested in. And that's kind of where it went from 5 to 4 stars, that's all. But realistically, it does tell you in the title that it follows him, so maybe it's really 4.5 stars, you know. Then I listened to Rebel by Beverly Jenkins, which is a historical romance. I do not normally read romances. I did listen to 2 in January because I was trying to branch out a little bit. And they were just okay. And to be perfectly honest, this one was also okay. Maybe it's really not my genre. I don't know. But it was fine. You know, it was fine as a sort of palate cleanser, or, you know, a bit of an, you know, easy listen. It is set in New Orleans after the Civil War has ended. So it doesn't just serve you some romance, you know, completely sort of separate from history or something. So it's actually for romance. It has relatively hard-hitting subjects as well. And it, from my very limited experience, the romance actually is definitely a slow burner. There's like a lot of pining and not a lot of getting it on for quite a while, which I appreciated. I'm not really in it for the sex scenes. They make me cringe usually. But this one at least had, you know, less of that and more of the whole sort of trying to figure out how one can be together with all these obstacles and all, you know, all that. But yeah, ultimately it was still sort of a 3.5 star read, or 3 stars, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll continue with the romance thing. Like, I've tried 3, I know that's barely any, but I'm not sure. Maybe I probably will at some point. Okay, then my next listen was Luster, the, you know, omnipresent Luster. I got a bit of the Women's Prize FOMO happening there, and decided that I would just go onto Scribd and see whichever audiobooks were available that are on that list, and then just listen to that, because I didn't want to spend money, especially not on any hardbacks of some random book that I might actually end up hating because I fell prey to the FOMO train. So I thought, yeah, let's just go with that. Luster was on there, so why not? I've already forgotten the name of the protagonist. Wait, is it Edie? I think it's Edie. Yeah, so this, I'm a little bit undecided so far, but it's about Edie. She is a 20-something. She has this sort of online contact with an older married white guy, whom she then at the beginning of the the beginning of the book starts, you know, like once they decide to meet for the first time, and obviously she expects to have sex with him and all that. He is married, but he claims to be in an open relationship, so, you know, he's allowed to do all that. And then through a series of events, she ends up moving in with the couple and their adoptive black daughter. And then, you know, things, you know, plot ensues, I guess. And I was sort of torn between not believing a lot of the motivations, not necessarily of the main character, actually. Because at first, when you hear about this premise, I thought, this is nonsense. Why would, you know, but then I felt like with how the events that unfolded, it kind of felt like, you know, well, okay, fair enough. I can kind of get why she would have agreed to go there, you know, and why she would have said, yeah, you know, I'm going to stay there now, because it really did feel like she had very few other options, if any. But I feel like I was not quite convinced by the motivations of the white couple, the married couple. Basically, they seemed, I don't know, they didn't really jump off the page for me. But I did really enjoy the writing. There were a lot of sort of interesting observations that I enjoyed, I guess, about millennial life, you know. I think, yeah, there's one moment where, I don't know, am I saying this? Okay, maybe let's just say, spoiler alert, I'm going to put a thing here. It's only going to be for a moment, so when the text disappears, the spoiler's over. So, about the millennial stuff, there's one really great line where she basically says, I had 2 months rent left. Actually, no, I had 1 month's rent and 1 abortion. Like, I had money enough for that. And that was, you know, and, you know, the whole deferring of student loans all the time and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I wasn't blown away by it like others were, but it was, I ultimately gave it 4 stars. But I think I might just need to let it sit a bit longer and think about it. And I've been thinking, because of the next book that I listened to, I've been thinking maybe I should try and make a video about so-called disaster women lit / millennial fiction. Although I feel like I haven't really read enough of that. If you have any recommendations, please give them to me. I've read like a few Ottessa Moshfegh, and then, well, this one, and what else? Oh, well, and then the next one, which was Milkfed by Melissa Broder, which I'm even more torn about than about Raven. So I guess we'll go into Milkfed then. Milkfed is, we follow a protagonist named Rachel. She is, I think she's also a mid-20s woman. She lives in LA and she has an eating disorder. She's very neurotic. So yeah, trigger warnings all over for eating disorder. It's very, very explicit. So she's quite obsessive about counting calories and yeah, basically keeping everything in control and so on. She is Jewish, but she is more, how do you say this, like she comes from a more modern, sort of semi-conservative Jewish family as opposed to an Orthodox one. She is bisexual and openly so, which her mother is not happy about, but her mother also is the one who contributed to her eating disorder in a major way. And she develops this obsession with a woman who works in a frozen yogurt shop, who is much larger than her. And she sort of fetishizes her in a way that I found very weird, and I don't know, that's probably the part that made me feel the most uncomfortable. I think that's not, yeah, but that there's a whole lot of stuff wrapped up in that. So the woman she fetishizes is called Miriam, and she is from an Orthodox Jewish family. And so there's a whole lot of things wrapped in there with, queerness and, coming out or staying in the closet, and whether you do that for, I don't know, for your family's sake and your community's sake, or whether you decide to sort of, not do that and to come out and be, I guess, true to your own sexual desires and so on. And so, oh God, where do I even start? Let's start with the things I liked. I liked, there was a lot of, again, it's very sort of observational humor. So these sort of very clever little statements, quips about, modern day life. And I loved those. Then the writing about food, granted, this is obviously from the perspective of a completely, of somebody with disordered eating who's completely obsessed with food, of course. But the writing was incredibly vivid. And it was really, really good. I wanted nothing more than have a go at one of those frozen yogurt things. And I haven't eaten any of those in years. And God, this Chinese restaurant food that she describes, it was very sensual. And yeah, I was really, really, how do you say it? Sucked in by that. I loved that. And it was very compulsively readable. Not readable, listenable. Whatever. What else? Is there another thing that I liked? I liked that the protagonist was so openly very liberal in her sexual desire, in, living that and being very, oh yeah, and then like I said before, I am not in it for the sex scenes. I'm really not into that very much. But seeing how much they usually make me cringe, in this case, I felt like they were quite well handled. I mean, not saying that there was still a lot of it, and that's not really my jam, but I thought it was really well done. And I think part of that is because Melissa Broder decided not to go around, using ridiculous euphemisms here, there, and everywhere. And instead, yeah, I don't know, it just took away some of that cringe factor for me, and it was quite well done, considering I don't like that very much. So that I liked. What I hated was the way she fetishizes this Miriam, and then also the way she is described by her, and also, sort of fantasies that she has about her, because it felt like, yeah, well, basically the male gaze just from a female perspective, which to me didn't seem very liberating, I guess. And her sort of ulterior motives in being attracted to this woman, because it seemed very simple in terms of this sort of dichotomy. Like, you have Rachel, who has this eating disorder and who's repressed, and then you have this woman who's larger, and therefore she must be really sort of free and carefree and, just enjoying life without a care in the world. And that's obviously not a hunt. This is now me simplifying it, but yeah. I don't know. I wasn't convinced. Yeah, but I mean, I guess obviously that's the perspective of the narrator, and she's weird. So maybe, yeah. Okay. That's that. What else was there? Oh yeah, and I hated how, apparently being in a relationship with this larger bodied woman immediately solved, not immediately, but very easily solved her eating disorder, which is ridiculous to me. I don't know. So it was a very sort of book. 3 stars. Yeah. I think my camera is about to run out. So maybe I'll just say goodbye now, instead of talking about anything else that I want to read. It's probably long enough anyway. Okay, have a lovely day. Please tell me more in the comments about disaster women and millennial fiction. Bye bye!